I hear her laughter before I see her face, soft, half-contained, a private amusement she thinks I'm too far away to catch. It floats down the hallway, drifting through the half-open bedroom door. She doesn't laugh like that when I'm around. Not anymore. In that moment, something inside me clenches. I stand there, silent, as though pinned to the floor. I listen. I realize there's something in that laugh, something secret, intimate, not meant for my ears. My name is Ethan Walker, and I used to believe I understood my wife better than anyone on earth. We've been married over 20 years, raised a daughter together, built a life that seemed ordinary yet sturdy. Until a few weeks ago, I would have sworn Sarah's the same woman I married, loyal, sensitive, earnest. But now there's this laugh, and the second I hear it, I know she's not alone. It's past 9 at night, and I was supposed to be running a small errand, just a quick run to the pharmacy for my migraine medication. I'd left, realized I'd forgotten my wallet, and now I'm back, evidently sooner than she'd planned. I catch my breath, step forward. The bedroom door stands ajar, letting me see enough to make my gut twist. She's not on the bed, not in full view, but I can see her reflection in the dresser mirror. She's leaning into her phone, hair swept behind her ear, wearing that familiar plush robe, the one I gave her last Christmas. She's smiling, nearly glowing, and the screen bathes her face in pale light. Her voice is low and playful. "Wish you were here," she murmurs. Then that laugh again, a soft, private purr. My mind jumps to a name, Gabriel. I sense it in my bones, though I can't yet prove anything. Gabriel Morgan, the consultant who started working with her school's fundraising committee 6 months ago. They ran a social media campaign together to support new art supplies. On the surface, he's just a business contact. But his texts on her phone have gotten suspiciously frequent in recent weeks. Slight changes in her posture every time he's mentioned, that glimmer in her eyes whenever she talks about the marketing guy. I shift my weight, and the floorboard creaks. She jolts, whips her head around. Our eyes meet in the mirror. Immediately, her expression shudders. It's like a door slamming shut, cutting off that laughter. "Ethan," she says, too sharply. "What are you doing? Didn't you go out?" I clear my throat. "Forgot my wallet." She slides off the bed, rummages quickly for her phone charger, anything to look busy. "Oh, right." She glances at me but avoids meeting my eyes now. Headache again. I don't answer. I just stare at her, at the robe, the phone still warm in her hand. There's a tension in the air so thick it's almost tangible. Then the phone vibrates with a new message, the screen lighting up. Sarah's face flushes as she reflexively covers it with her palm. A slow, hollow feeling expands in my chest. "Who was that?" She forces a laugh. "This one's brittle. Just some fundraising updates for next month's drive." "You're planning a fundraiser at 9 p.m. in our bedroom." She bristles. "Why are you interrogating me?" And we stand there, locked in a silent battle of stares. We've had arguments before. Everyone does. But never like this. Usually, she'd ask me about my day, or we'd share small talk about our daughter, or the finances, or something mundane. Now, the air pulses with an unspoken knowledge. I know. I can't prove it yet, but I know. I swallow. "I'm not interrogating you," I say quietly. "I just heard you laugh." So it's been a while since I've heard you laugh like that around me." She doesn't respond. Her cheeks color. The tension is overwhelming, and my fists clench involuntarily at my sides. Something in me wants to lunge forward, grab the phone, demand the truth. But I do nothing, just stand there, letting the silence stretch. Finally, she sucks in a breath. "Look, Ethan, can we talk about this later? My head's pounding, and you still need your medication." She slides around me, edging toward the bedroom door, phone in hand. Our shoulders brush. I catch the faintest scent of her shampoo, lavender, and something else. She disappears into the hallway, and I stand in that half-lit bedroom, feeling like a stranger in my own home. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I shut my eyes, I heard that laugh again. I replayed every moment from the past 6 months. Her new habit of turning her phone face down, her frequent mention of late meetings, the subtle shift in her tone whenever she spoke about the marketing guy, the new perfume she started wearing but never explained. A few days later, my suspicions hardened into certainty. It came from a random Instagram story one of our daughter's friends posted. An idiotic, casual snapshot that showed Sarah in a fuzzy bathrobe, standing too close to a tall male figure hidden in half shadow. The caption read, "When your boyfriend is better than her husband." A child's immature joke, but loaded with enough truth to blow my life apart. I recognized the robe immediately, recognized the messy background of the living room she sometimes used as a tutoring space, and that shadow beside her, with the faint outline of a leather bracelet. Gabriel. I confronted Sarah that night in our kitchen. I asked her point blank, "Is there something going on between you and Gabriel Morgan?" She stared at me, arms folded, eyes narrowing. "Why are you asking me that?" I slammed my phone onto the table, showing her the Instagram post. "Because of this." She went pale. For a moment, I saw fear in her eyes, then defiance. "It's just a stupid joke. A friend of our daughter's took it out of context." Context. "Looks like you're in our house, wearing your robe, with a man who sure as hell isn't me." "It's not what you think," she said, voice trembling. "He was helping me move some boxes for the school fundraiser." "That's it. Move some boxes." My voice rose, a furious tremor behind it. "That's all you have to say?" She flinched at my tone. "Ethan, keep your voice down. Our daughter's upstairs." "I don't want her hearing this." "Oh, she'll hear." "You think she doesn't suspect? You think she's blind to the fact you're barely home by dinner time, or that you work late on weekends?" "Lower your voice." She tried to hush me, but I was too far gone, adrenaline pounding in my veins. We spiraled into a screaming match, our voices echoing through the house. I accused her of lying, of betraying me. She flung back her own frustrations. Our marriage had grown stale. She felt invisible. I was always at work or too tired to talk. Words like knives flew between us. Worthless, selfish, heartless. At some point, I pounded my fist on the countertop so hard a coffee mug toppled and shattered. That was when our daughter came rushing downstairs, tears already in her eyes. "Stop," she cried, voice breaking. "Mom, Dad, stop." It was a moment of awful clarity. I stood there, chest heaving, and looked at Sarah. She had tears on her cheeks. Our daughter, trembling, hovered in the hallway, arms wrapped around herself like a shield. My anger curdled into something else: shame, regret, heartbreak. I left the house that night, driving aimlessly for hours until my phone died. A week passed. Sarah avoided me at every turn. I avoided her, too. Long hours at the office, late nights returning to a dark, empty living room. Our daughter tiptoed around us, eyes red from crying. I felt like a ghost, trapped in a nightmare. My mind looped on a single question: why? But the humiliations continued. Another story surfaced, this time posted by the same teenage friend, showing a silhouette in Sarah's bedroom. Again, the caption mocking me. The final straw was seeing them together, in person, at a local coffee shop. They were seated in a corner booth, heads inclined intimately. Sarah's hand brushed his arm. The moment I walked in, they froze. She jerked her hand away. Gabriel gave me a nod, eyes full of something like pity. That single look enraged me beyond words. I confronted her again that night, but she refused to engage, slammed the bedroom door in my face. I was left with nothing but my anger. And as the days dragged on, I discovered that anger had a monstrous appetite. My cousin Joe had an old friend working as a private investigator. On a Friday, I paid the guy to follow Sarah, gather evidence. I wanted facts, photos, times, dates, anything that would confirm my worst suspicions. This wasn't just about rage. It was about having something real, tangible, so that when everything inevitably collapsed, I wouldn't be the one left gasping with no proof. The PI did his job. Within a week, he handed me a folder, pictures of Sarah and Gabriel in a hotel parking lot, leaving a room near midnight, another set from a restaurant where they shared a booth, leaning in close, then a time-stamped record from a motel on the interstate. I sat alone in my car outside the PI's office, looking at the grainy images, feeling my heart beat like a war drum. My hands trembled. My mind screamed. After that, I did something I never thought I'd do. I demanded she leave. Or rather, I told her I wanted a separation. No more lies. No more half-truths. She didn't fight me. She just went quiet, nodded. She packed a suitcase and spent the night at a friend's house, or so she claimed. Our daughter, caught in the crossfire, cried in her room, refusing dinner. Then came the stage of official attorneys and legal procedures. The tension soared. We started drafting the terms for divorce, talking about custody. My chest felt tight all the time, like a belt cinched around my lungs. Even breathing felt like a betrayal to the man I used to be. It was during one of those dull, suffocating meetings with her lawyer that a memory struck me with startling clarity. Years ago, we'd stood in a tiny chapel for our wedding ceremony. I remember holding our rings in my pocket, her ring in my left pocket, mine in my right. Symmetry. I joked. She laughed, eyes shining with love. Now, in the lawyer's stuffy office, she sat stiffly across from me, arms folded. Her attorney did most of the talking, haggling over finances and visitation schedules. She barely spoke. Her face was a blank slate. I realized with a jolt that shining woman from the chapel might as well be a ghost. A wave of rage and despair crashed through me. I just stood up, cut the session short, and stormed out. I left them stunned, calling my name. I needed air. I needed to be anywhere but there. Later that day, I found myself sitting on the front porch for hours, staring at nothing. My daughter peeked outside once or twice, tears in her eyes, but she didn't approach me. The father she once knew, patient, steady, was unraveling in front of her, and I couldn't muster the strength to comfort her or even look her in the eye. One evening, as if to confirm my downfall, I found an envelope in the mailbox. Inside was a typed note, no signature. It read, "Ask your wife what she did at the Redwood Inn last week." Enclosed was a photograph, grainy but unmistakable. Sarah's face, his face, pressed together in a heated kiss near a hallway door. The Redwood Inn was a cheap motel on the edge of town, infamous for late-night rendezvous. I felt physically ill. My stomach clenched, my vision swam. I thought I'd seen all the evidence, but each new revelation reopened the wound. It was like I was stuck in a slow-motion car crash, forced to watch the collision from every angle. Then came the day I reached my limit. It started with me looking through old photo albums, vacations, birthdays, pictures of Sarah and our daughter, pictures of me hugging Sarah on the beach. I was searching for proof, I suppose, that once upon a time we'd been happy, that she'd been mine. Halfway through, the doorbell rang. I opened it to see Gabriel Morgan himself standing on my porch. Lean, confident, with a neatly trimmed beard. He held a small box in his hands. I froze. "What the hell are you doing here?" He cleared his throat. "I know you have every reason to hate me, but Sarah asked me to bring some of her things from work. She's had a headache since last night and asked if I could drop it off." I stared at the box. My blood pounded in my ears. "She asked you?" He shifted uncomfortably. "Yes. Told me you'd be out all day." I wasn't expecting. I cut him off by stepping forward, forcing him to back up. "Don't move." His eyes flickered with alarm. "Ethan, listen, maybe I should just go." "Go?" I let out a harsh laugh. "You think you can come to my house, stand on my porch, after sleeping with my wife, and just walk away?" He opened his mouth, but no words came out. He wasn't cowering, but he looked uneasy, like he regretted showing up. A wave of black fury swallowed me. My fists clenched, and for a split second, I wanted to knock him to the ground. I wanted to see him bleed for what he'd taken from me. But I didn't, because out of the corner of my eye, I saw the curtain in the living room shift. My daughter watching. I stopped myself, trembling. Instead, I spat out, "Get the hell off my property, Gabriel. Now." He set the box on the porch and stepped away with his hands raised, voice shaking. "I'm leaving, okay? I'm sorry." He turned and rushed to his car. I stood there, heart racing, eyes locked on the vehicle until it disappeared down the street. Then I kicked the box. It tumbled off the porch, scattering papers across the lawn. My daughter's voice came from behind me, trembling. "Dad." I stood there, shoulders heaving, unable to turn around. I knew my rage was scaring her. I wanted to hold her, reassure her that I'd be okay, that we'd be okay, but I couldn't form the words. A couple of days later, I confronted Sarah again in the living room. She was tired, eyes ringed with shadows, but I had no pity left. I showed her the newest photograph, the Redwood Inn. I demanded an explanation. Her voice cracked. "It just happened. It wasn't planned. We had a connection, and I felt alive with him. I know it was wrong." "Wrong?" I snarled. "That's all you've got to say? You destroy our marriage, humiliated me in front of the entire goddamn town, and left our daughter in tears for weeks, all because you felt alive." She didn't respond, just stared at me with tearful eyes. I raised my voice, letting the fury surge. "Why didn't you just tell me you were unhappy? Why sneak around? Why blow up our life like this?" She began to cry in earnest. "I tried to talk to you, but you were always busy, always distant. And then, Gabriel was there. He listened. He made me feel." "Made you feel what?" I shouted. "Loved, desired. As if I never did any of that for you." She shook her head, tears slipping down her cheeks. "You did, once. But everything changed. We got older, we grew apart." I let out a bitter laugh. "Unbelievable. You tear my heart out. And now it's my fault for working too much or not talking enough." She wiped her eyes, frustration mingling with guilt. "I'm not saying it's all your fault, Ethan, but this marriage wasn't happy. You know that." I hurled a pillow across the room, knocking over a lamp. "So your solution was to bring another man into our bed, in the house where our daughter sleeps? God, Sarah." She flinched. I've moved out now. We need space. We're already in the process of divorce. What else do you want?" I stared at her. My anger raged like a wildfire, but beneath it, a hollow sorrow. She was right in that sense. There was no repairing this. We were like two people trapped in a boat taking on water, both bailing with bare hands but sinking anyway. Finally, I whispered, "I want you to hurt the way I'm hurting." Her eyes widened, voice catching. "That's not fair." I turned away, fists clenched. "Fair, yeah." And I stormed out, leaving her trembling in the living room. That night, I barely slept. I lay awake, consumed by thoughts of revenge. The rational part of me knew better, that seeking vengeance might ruin whatever chance I had at salvaging my dignity. But my wounded pride demanded I do something to make her pay, to show Gabriel that I wasn't some spineless cuckold. An opportunity presented itself sooner than expected. I found out that Gabriel's freelance gig was precarious. He had a big contract with a local marketing firm that was up for renewal, and I happened to know the firm's CEO through a bank connection. A few calls, a few well-placed words about unprofessional behavior and moral concerns, and Gabriel's contract was revoked. I heard from a mutual acquaintance that he lost a significant source of income. The moment I got that confirmation, a dark satisfaction curled in my chest. He'd feel the loss of security, the sting of fear that everything could vanish overnight. Part of me felt guilty. I'd never meddled with a man's livelihood before, but the throbbing ache of betrayal overshadowed my conscience. I wish I could say it made me feel better, that after exacting revenge I could move on. But it didn't. The emptiness still gnawed at me. My nights were restless, my days a blur. Meanwhile, the divorce proceedings advanced. Sarah moved into a small apartment downtown. Our daughter stayed with me most days, though she spent weekends in Sarah's new place. Every time she left, I felt an ache in my chest that reminded me how fractured our family had become. We tried to keep the final negotiations civil, but it deteriorated quickly. At a joint meeting with her lawyer, we erupted again, both of us raising our voices over finances, custody schedules, petty arguments about who would keep which piece of furniture. The tension was so thick I nearly walked out. Then Sarah, trembling, said something that struck me like a sledgehammer. "This can't go on, Ethan. We can't keep tearing each other apart in front of everyone, especially not our daughter. We need to finalize this." Her lawyer nodded. Mine frowned. I stared at her. A feeling of disbelief welled up. "You want to finalize this? You want to walk away?" She caught my gaze. "Yes. We deserve a chance to move forward with our lives, separately." I wanted to scream, to smash something. But the force of reality weighed down on me. We were past the point of no return. Any illusions that we might patch things up had long since died. In the following days, I sank deeper into a numb haze. I barely recognized myself. The man I once was, steady, quiet, reliable, had been twisted by rage and sorrow. I brushed off concerned calls from my parents, from my sister in Kansas. I drank more than I should. I slept poorly. My daughter tiptoed around me, tears always near the surface. My one dark solace was that I'd hurt Gabriel's career. Petty as it was, I clung to that small bitter victory. And then, unexpectedly, it backfired. I got a message from my boss, a short email telling me the bank needed to review some concerns about my conduct in personal matters. It seemed Gabriel had influential contacts too, and after losing his job, he'd decided to strike back. Word traveled that I was interfering with his business out of spite. It put my own position under scrutiny. My boss, a strict corporate type, didn't appreciate the drama. The week after that, the bank let me go. Officially, they cited restructuring, but we both knew it was a polite way of firing me. My revenge had come home to roost. I left the bank with my belongings in a cardboard box, face burning. I'd never felt so humiliated, so small. My desire to see them punished had blown up in my face, leaving me jobless and reeling. And then I realized I'd become the villain of my own story. Days bowled into weeks. The final hearing for the divorce approached. Sarah and I barely spoke. Everything was handled through lawyers. I spent hours each day searching for new employment, which was slow going. The house felt empty, echoing with memories. The living room lamp was still shattered from that earlier fight, replaced with a cheap one from the discount store. The bedroom was half cleared of Sarah's belongings. The walls were bare. Every object reminded me of her, of us. The battered couch, where we used to cuddle and watch movies on Friday nights. The stack of board games in the closet, collecting dust. Our wedding photo on the mantel, now face down behind a random box of junk mail. One night, I walked through the house, flicking on lights, trying to fill the silence. Her absence was everywhere. It felt like stepping through a graveyard of my old life. I found myself in the garage, staring at the dusty treadmill we bought together 5 years ago. She'd insisted on jogging indoors during winter. We used to watch silly reality shows on a tablet propped against it, laughing at the antics, sharing jokes. Now the treadmill stood abandoned, a relic of better times. I sat down on a tool bench, my head in my hands, trembling with sorrow. I thought I'd run out of tears weeks ago, but they came back, stinging my eyes. I whispered into the emptiness. Why wasn't I enough? No one answered. The final hearing took place in a claustrophobic courtroom on a warm Thursday afternoon. Sarah sat across from me, posture rigid, her attorney by her side. My lawyer, a friend of a friend, had done his best to secure fair terms. But I didn't care much anymore. I just wanted it over. Our daughter didn't attend. Thank God for that. She was staying with a friend, trying to shield herself from the ugliness. A young court clerk read out the date, asked for acknowledgement of the proceedings. I nodded, giving the minimal answers. Sarah remained mostly silent, letting her attorney handle things. Occasionally, I glimpsed her face. It looked hollow, drawn, like someone at a funeral. Perhaps it was the funeral of our marriage. Half an hour later, the judge pronounced we were officially divorced, pending final paperwork. It felt surreal. I could hardly process the moment. Just numbness, a faint buzzing in my ears. My marriage was gone, undone by betrayal and bitterness. I walked out of the courtroom, blindly searching for an exit. I reached a corridor with a row of windows letting in bright sunlight. Sarah caught up to me. I turned, seeing her approach cautiously, like I might bite. She said softly, "Ethan, how are you?" The question made me laugh, a hollow sound. How am I? I just lost my job, my marriage, and half my self-respect. I'm fantastic. She looked away, tears brimming. I'm sorry. Are you really? My voice rose. Or are you just sorry you got caught? She swallowed. I'm sorry about everything. Sorry I hurt you. Sorry it ended like this. I stared at her, remembering the woman I fell in love with so many years ago. Her face was the same shape, her eyes the same color, but the bond we once shared was irrevocably severed. Too late for that, I muttered. She nodded, tears slipping free. I know. Then she stepped closer, hesitating, as if wanting to touch my arm. I never wanted it to get so ugly. I never meant for you to lose your job. I just wanted. What? I snarled. You wanted to feel alive, right? To fill some emptiness inside you. She bit her lip. Yes. But I realize now, you were hurting too. I'm sorry I ignored that. I was too drained to keep the anger burning. Instead, a wave of exhaustion washed over me. I just turned away, heading for the exit. She didn't follow. That night, I found myself at the house alone. My daughter was still away, likely trying to avoid the tension. I walked through the place in darkness. At some point, I ended up on the back porch with an old photo album in my lap. I thumbed through images of me and Sarah in our 20s, brand new rings on our fingers, big silly grins. It felt like looking at strangers. Then I recalled a vow I made. I want you to hurt the way I'm hurting. I'd succeeded, in a twisted way. She'd lost respect in the community, had a storm of gossip swirl around her. Gabriel had lost his major contract, but my life was in ruins too. My revenge cost me the job I relied on. My daughter was caught in the crossfire. There was no victory, no satisfaction. The next day, I tried to pull myself together, took a shower, shaved for the first time in days. I looked in the mirror and saw a man who'd aged 10 years in the span of a few weeks. Lines etched my forehead, my eyes were bloodshot. I exhaled a shaky breath. I took a notepad, scribbled a list of job leads, forced myself to make phone calls. In between calls, I texted my daughter, telling her I loved her, that I was sorry for everything. She replied she'd be home that evening. When she finally arrived, I met her in the living room, trying to appear steady. She was quiet, eyes still haunted. We talked in subdued tones about how the hearing had gone. I assured her none of this was her fault, that we both loved her. She nodded, tears shining, then gave me a hug that nearly shattered me all over again. In the following week, I started therapy. Just me, no couple sessions, since the marriage was already over. I talked to a counselor about the betrayal, my rage, my regrets. It felt strange, opening up to a stranger, but also oddly relieving. He asked me if I was ready to move on, to let go of revenge and start living again. I wasn't sure how to answer, but I knew I was tired of letting bitterness define me. I found a job lead at a local credit union. It wasn't as prestigious or high-paying as my bank position, but it was something. I interviewed, and the manager seemed sympathetic to my restructuring story. A week later, they offered me a position, It felt like a lifeline, something to help me stabilize financially and psychologically. That same week, Sarah reached out about finalizing the division of assets. We met in a cafe, neutral ground, public enough to avoid a shouting match. She looked pale, thinner than before, like the affair and its fallout had worn her down. We spoke quietly about the house, the finances, how to handle our daughter's college savings. It was civil, if awkward. At the end, she mentioned she was cutting off contact with Gabriel. I raised an eyebrow. Cutting off? Didn't you love him? She sighed, rubbing her forehead. I don't know. It was a whirlwind, and I ruined so much. Now that everything's out, he and I are arguing a lot. She paused, voice trembling. He blames me for his career trouble, and I blame him for everything else. We're toxic together, Ethan. This wasn't some great romance. For a moment, a flash of pity flickered in my chest. I masked it quickly. So this is how it ends for you too. She nodded. I made a terrible mistake. I stared at her, anger twisting inside me. But I remembered the counselor's words. Are you ready to let go? I exhaled slowly. We all made mistakes, I guess. She bit her lip. I want to repair at least some part of our relationship, for our daughter's sake, if nothing else. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I'd like us to be civil. Part of me wanted to snap that I owed her nothing, but I swallowed it down. Our daughter deserved better than perpetual warfare. Fine, I muttered. We can try. We parted with a stiff nod. Weeks turned into months. The papers were signed, the divorce officially finalized. I moved forward in my new job, smaller office, less pay, but a calmer environment. My daughter split her time between my house and Sarah's apartment. We tried to maintain a sense of normalcy. Therapy helped me confront the swirling mess inside my head. The betrayal, the revenge, the job loss, the regrets. Gradually, I noticed the storms of anger became less frequent, replaced by a deep ache. It was a grief that I carried quietly, a sense of losing not just Sarah, but the man I thought I was. The betrayal forced me to see my own failures too. One day, I got a call from the old bank. They asked if I consider returning in a different capacity. Apparently, the management changed, and they were inviting ex-employees to reapply. I declined. I didn't want to go back to a place that fired me in a heartbeat. I focused on building a new life, paying the mortgage alone, supporting my daughter's transition to college in a few years, taking care of mundane tasks Sarah once handled. Each small accomplishment felt like a shaky step on fragile ground. Gabriel fell off my radar, though occasionally I heard rumors he was struggling to land big clients. Part of me felt satisfaction, but it no longer consumed me. My revenge was complete, and it had cost me dearly. One evening, my daughter and I sat at the kitchen table, sharing takeout Chinese food. She'd been quiet all day, but halfway through the meal, she spoke up. Dad, I know we haven't talked about everything. I put down my fork. We can talk now, if you want. She looked vulnerable. I miss how things were before, but I also know it'll never be the same. Mom broke our trust. You're both different now. Her voice wavered. But I don't want to choose sides. I love you both. My eyes stung. I reached across the table and took her hand. I never want you to choose sides. You're our daughter, and we both love you. She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. I know. Then she swallowed hard. Are you okay, Dad? Really okay? I hesitated. I didn't want to lie. I'm not okay yet, but I'm trying to be. It'll take time. She squeezed my hand. I'll be here. It was the closest thing to comfort I'd felt in months. In the months that followed, Sarah and I managed a cautious civility. We met for coffee occasionally to discuss parenting logistics, finances, or to attend a school event for our daughter. At times, we had tense arguments, but they never exploded into the violence of before. We learned to keep our voices down, to shield our child. There were moments, fleeting but real, where she'd cast me a look of profound regret, and I'd feel that old rage flare. Then I'd remember the therapy sessions, the repeated phrase, acceptance. For my own sanity, I was trying to accept. The final piece of the puzzle came unexpectedly, on a warm Saturday afternoon nearly a year after the affair first came to light. I was cleaning out the garage, deciding which items to keep and which to toss. Buried under a pile of old newspapers, I found a dusty cardboard box filled with wedding keepsakes, leftover invitations, dried rose petals, and the vow booklets we wrote for each other. I leafed through them, my chest tightening. The vow book was short but heartfelt. My handwriting scrawled with lines about loyalty, building a home, growing old together. Sarah's vow was equally earnest, full of hope about the future. I realized tears were sliding down my face, dropping onto the page. Part of me wanted to tear them up, set them on fire. But I paused. This was once real, once beautiful, even if it ended in betrayal. I wrapped them gently in plastic and put them back in the box. I didn't have the heart to destroy them. Not anymore. After that moment, something shifted inside me. I realized that no matter how deep the wounds, carrying hatred forever would only destroy what remained of my life. Revenge had already dragged me through the mud. I couldn't keep feeding it. I stood in the driveway as the late afternoon sun dipped low, coloring the sky in shades of orange and pink. My daughter was out with friends, and the house was silent except for a few birds in the trees. The air felt different, lighter. I shut my eyes, took a long breath, and exhaled slowly. It wasn't forgiveness, exactly. It was a decision to move forward. Months rolled on. Sarah and I finalized the sale of the house, deciding it was too big for either one of us alone. I downsized to a modest townhouse not far from my new job. She stayed in her apartment, exploring new career opportunities. Our daughter prepared for college applications, and we made sure to appear supportive, side by side, at her school events. At the last meeting with the realtor to sign the closing documents, Sarah and I exchanged a few awkward smiles. I handed her the pen, our fingers brushing. A swirl of old memories tried to surface, but I gently pushed them aside. After we finished, we stepped outside together. She turned to me, eyes searching. "Ethan, do you think we'll ever be friends?" I took a moment, remembering the old vow book, the box of photos, the quiet acceptance. "Maybe," I said. "But not yet." She nodded, looking away. "I understand." We parted ways. I climbed into my truck, letting the engine idle for a moment. Finally, I drove off, leaving behind that house and all it represented. Sometimes at night, I think about how it all began. Her laughter behind the bedroom door, that private, intimate sound. It was so small, yet it cracked my world wide open. We once were a couple with a future, then we were strangers in the same house, then enemies. Now, well, we're something else. Two people linked by a shared past, co-parents who have to find a new balance. The bitterness still stings at times, especially when I see couples in a restaurant, smiling at each other the way Sarah and I used to. But I'm learning to let that pain pass through me. The heartbreak is a scar now, something that'll always be there, but doesn't bleed anymore. I don't regret that I tried to fight for what I believed was mine, my marriage, my pride. But I learned that vengeance can devour the soul. If you stand too close to that fire, you get burned. I certainly did. In the end, I paid for my revenge with my job, my sense of self-worth, and months of anguish. Yet I also realized that clinging to hatred would only chain me to the worst moment of my life. Slowly, I choose to unshackle myself, focus on what remains, my daughter, my own future, a chance at a peace I never thought possible. I sometimes picture Sarah's face, the old Sarah, the woman who used to laugh at my corny jokes, who wore that silly bathrobe with the fraying collar. Then I picture the new Sarah, the one who's grown distant, who fell into an affair for reasons I may never fully understand. Both images swirl into one. I can't hate them entirely. I can't love them entirely. All I can do is keep living, day by day. I'm breathing again, a bit more freely. My daughter and I watch movies sometimes on weekends, and I laugh. Maybe not the same way I used to, but it's real enough. I have a job that doesn't eat me alive. I have time to reflect and look after my own health. Maybe, down the line, I'll meet someone else, someone to share a future with. Or maybe not. Either way, I'm not in a rush. For now, I'm learning how to be content with myself. And sometimes, late at night, I think about those wedding vow booklets in the dusty box. I imagine picking them up again someday, flipping through the pages without the old pain, just remembering that once upon a time, it was real and it was ours, and we were happy. And that's enough. Because in the end, you can't truly erase love, no matter how deeply it's been betrayed. You can only grow around the wound, layer by layer, until the hurt is just another part of you, not the sum total of who you are. That's what I keep telling myself anyway. And every day, it feels a little bit more true.